Welcome to GoodNight Audio. Wishing you a pleasant listening experience. Terrifying villain who personally sent my relatives to their demise. After sending them off, I deliberately filmed the scene of bodies filling the house to provoke the police. I said, "This is my family matter. The police cannot interfere." I took care of sending them off and burying the bodies, causing no harm to outsiders. No one has the right to arrest me. Having said that, I burst into laughter, full of sarcasm. Of course, the police couldn't catch me either. Perhaps my words were a bit too excessive. In just one night, I became the top wanted criminal by the police. I felt that the police everywhere regarded arresting me as their mission. It's only natural. If they couldn't catch me, the reputation of the police nationwide would be trampled under my iron feet. During lunch, I overheard conversations from nearby tables as people browsed notifications on their phones, discussing a cruel character who personally eliminated their entire family. What else? They didn't even spare the 3-year-old twin grandchildren. Tell me, how can a woman be so cruel? Look, the methods were extremely brutal. First, poisoning, then slashing with a knife, and finally, setting the house on fire. They were all family. What grudge could possibly lead to such an act? A male diner whispered, "I heard that this villain and her brother were twins, so I dare to guess, 9 out of 10 times, it was due to the preference for sons over daughters. Their family lives in such a luxurious villa, yet I heard that daughter didn't even have a private room to call her own. Why are the rich so stingy? With such a large house, what's the harm in giving their daughter a room? Now it's all over, one fire and nothing remains. These nouveau rich are all the same. They were poor before and are now afraid. Even though they are wealthy, their mindset remains impoverished. They think their daughters are a financial burden." Hearing this, I couldn't help but interject. What I heard is not like that. I heard this family dotes on their daughter the most. Before I could finish speaking, the other customers, carrying their bowls, gathered around my table. "Little girl, do you know this family? Indeed, human curiosity is born for gossip." I took a sip of the noodle soup and said no, but I've heard of them. The daughter of the family was raised like a precious gem. Then why did she kill her entire family? Who knows? I looked at them and said with a smile, "They're just perverted, who would film themselves after killing someone and post it online. They are enjoying the pleasure of taking lives. Perhaps she was just practicing on her family first. Next time, maybe it will be you." I deliberately tried to scare them. They were all tall, strong men. Yet, after hearing that, in the sweltering summer heat, they all shivered with cold. As we were talking, several men walked in from outside. Though in plain clothes, their extraordinary demeanor, no need for them to flash their badges, I could tell they were police officers. The owner rushed out to greet them. "Gentlemen, what can I get for you?" "We're not eating." The leading man indeed pulled out his badge and briefly showed it to the owner, saying, "Sir, have you seen any unfamiliar guests around here lately?" The owner hesitated. Unfamiliar guests. The diners wished they could raise their hands to the sky and listen. The owner mumbled, "My area is a crossroads, accessible from all directions. People passing through say there are many unfamiliar guests." The other man asked, "Then have there been any guests who left a particularly deep impression on you?" A particularly deep impression. The owner pondered for a moment. At this moment, his eyes suddenly fell upon me. "Ah, that young lady is particularly beautiful. Who wouldn't be deeply impressed?" The man looked in the direction of his finger. I quickly put down my chopsticks and sat up straight. This small county town is where 3 provinces converge. This small eatery is located right next to the highway interchange. The passers-by recounted that they were all long-distance travelers, driving themselves. I asked with a smile, "Why are the police looking for strangers? Are you investigating a case of extermination?" What I said was shocking, and the police officers looked at each other. The leader frowned as if he had discovered an important clue and immediately walked towards me, hoping I could provide them with new information. Unfortunately, I jumped straight out the window and ran away. If I hadn't run, as soon as I did, they immediately identified me as a dangerous suspect and gave chase. Clearly, this was a well-trained team. Without a word, just through a few movements and glances, they surrounded me from all sides. I hadn't run far before they blocked me. The leading officer, his eyes gleaming, holding a baton in one hand and blocking my path with the other, commanded, "Who are you and why are you running?" I looked around and saw no escape, so I stopped running. I retorted, I'm wearing athletic gear. Does jogging constitute a crime? Jogging is not a crime. But you ran upon seeing the police, which proves you have something to hide. Handcuff her, he ordered, and immediately someone snapped handcuffs onto me. I said, you weren't in uniform. How was I supposed to know you were real police officers? Didn't you see my badge? It's this big. The other man added, moreover, you seem very interested in the mass murder case. It's such a hot topic. Everyone in the country knows about it. Who wouldn't be interested? He spread his fingers apart and said, where are your identification documents? Give them to me, I said irritably. Who carries identification documents when going out for a meal? Seeing his displeased expression, I quickly added, they are in my car. He gestured for me to lead them to the car to retrieve the items, so I had no choice but to go ahead and guide them. He said, such a major event, it's normal for people to discuss it, but for a young woman like you to speak so directly, it seems rather unusual. I replied calmly, you are police officers. Judging whether a person's behavior is normal or not is your professional duty. But just because I saw you and ran away, you handcuffed me, isn't that an overreaction? After all, you can't suspect me of being the murderer just because I discussed a few things, can you? Didn't the culprit clearly state in the video they posted that the murderer is the daughter of that family? Although the culprit's face was not shown in the video. Don't you police officers know what the murderer looks like? As soon as I finished speaking, I was in front of the car. I unlocked it. He opened the car door. Someone took my handbag from the passenger seat. Someone found my driver's license and vehicle registration in the car. Yue Wen Shan, what? My name sounds good. 25 years old. Don't I look like a 25-year-old woman? Journalist, he looked at my documents, and with each thing he saw, he added a question. Is that not allowed? I raised my hands, handcuffed, and asked, you handcuffed me just now? I didn't resist. Now that my identity is clear, can you take these off? The other person frowned and asked, then why did you run? Isn't that delaying our work? He took off the handcuffs for me. I looked at him and smiled. Wasn't this just to attract the attention of you police officers? I suggest, officer, let's cooperate. You give me information, and I'll give you clues. At this moment, a police officer glanced through the photos on my camera. Naturally, it wasn't anything new that they didn't already know. It was photos of the crime scene, the villa reduced to ashes. The leading officer let out a cold snort, saying, you reporters, for a scoop, will resort to any means. Cooperate with the police. What are you thinking? He took the camera, stating, the police will temporarily hold this camera for you, and we will notify you to retrieve it after the case is concluded. He instructed his colleague, make out a report for her, get her contact information. Hey, as he was about to leave, I called out to him. The crime scene was in Jiangbei, yet we met here. Don't you see that what I've investigated is no less than what you police have? He looked at me, stunned. There was a moment of applause, but it quickly turned into disdain, even disgust. This is a serious criminal case. The lives of parents, siblings, and in-laws, the lives of 2 3-year-old grandchildren, not only violates criminal law but also goes against the natural order. Yet you reporters, he said to me, with a hint of anger, do you know that every article you publish creates another opportunity for the perpetrator to escape? Please understand, reporters do not have the right to solve cases. Your involvement only confuses the police's perspective. Just like a moment ago, if the culprit was in that restaurant, because of you, they have now escaped. His words, so full of righteous indignation, truly stir the blood. I am confiscating your press card for now. Do not obstruct the police investigation, or I will have you arrested, according to the law. Secondly, the culprit was right in front of you, and you didn't even recognize them. How can you speak such words? After saying that, he left, seemingly intending to take the highway. When his colleague asked me to fill out the report, I couldn't help but remind them. Do police officers not check the weather forecast before going out? There will be a hailstorm in 2 hours. Taking the highway now is rather dangerous. But that person paid me no mind and hurried after his colleague. At sunset, I was having coffee in the hotel's VIP lounge when I saw their group rush in. Their vehicles were not only drenched as if they were rats, but they also appeared to be injured. One of them complained, I've never seen anyone drive into a rock before. Another said, indeed, I've never seen anyone unaware that hailstorms occur in summer. This is called appreciation, understand? Their team leader was calmer and rushed to ask the receptionist if there were any rooms available. The receptionist replied, "We are fully booked. With such extreme weather, one only needs to glance at their phone to know it's not advisable to be out on the road, especially not on the highway. If hailstones fall, the road will surely be impassable. They won't even make it to the highway rest stop. If they don't want to get stranded, they have no choice but to return to this small county town. Could you speak to other guests and ask them to give up a room for us? We can pay double the room rate." The receptionist said hesitantly, "We don't have a precedent for this at our hotel. Perhaps you could find another guest to negotiate with and see if anyone is willing to give up their room." "Can't your hotel mediate?" he asked, a little anxiously. It's clear they've already tried many places. The storm is raging outside the window, and their car probably can't run anymore. If they can't find a place to rest, both they and their vehicle will be in danger. Just then he saw me. Holding the room key, I asked them with a smile, "Officer, I just happened to book 2 rooms. Would you like me to give you one of my rooms?" He seemed a bit resentful, but reality forced him to suppress his pride. He forced a smile and walked towards me. "Officer, it's a pleasure to meet you. Is this what you call happiness?" He was clearly annoyed that I had figured out his plan, but he had to suppress his anger. He snatched the room key from my hand. "Thank you for cooperating with the police in solving the case. I will report this to my superiors and recommend you for a Good Citizen Award. Of course, I will also pay you double for the room." I just smiled. About half an hour later, after they had showered and changed into clean clothes, I had already ordered dinner. I gestured for them to join me, but as police officers, they remained very cautious. Only the captain came over alone. I cheerfully poured him a drink. He quickly told me not to drink, as it would impair my judgment. "This is wine." He still refused to drink. I reluctantly put it down. "Officer, I have helped you so much already. Can't you even give me the chance to share a meal with you?" "I'm already past that, aren't I?" He sat down. "But if you dare to talk to me about the case, I will arrest you immediately." How interesting. The police manage everything under the sun, and even the mouths of ordinary citizens. What I want to say, what I like to say, is the right of a lawful citizen. He immediately stood up to leave. I quickly stopped him. All right. If you don't want to talk, then don't." I deliberately teased him. "So, officer, you've seen my ID. You should tell me your name, shouldn't you?" "Yi Hang," he replied decisively. "Oha, what a nice name. Your parents must have been educated." Yi Hang, easy. They surely hoped your life would be peaceful and smooth, with everything going well. He handed me a stack of cash. "This is for the room and meals. Thank you for your hospitality. By the way, this case has no news you want, and even if it did, you are not allowed to publish it. When the rain stops, you should go home quickly. I think your mother must be very worried about you being alone outside. Hey, why aren't you taking the bait? What a wealthy person." He merely picked up a chopstickful of food before standing up to leave. I quickly called him back. The victim was poisoned first, then stabbed to death. The perpetrator filmed the act before setting fire to the villa. A villa this large could not have been easily reduced to ashes without the preparation of flammable materials and a large quantity of gasoline. And purchasing gasoline would undoubtedly leave a trace. If my guess is correct, you tracked the perpetrator to this small county town based on their vehicle. The unfortunate part is that this vehicle vanished without a trace after entering the county town. After a search, you concluded that she had left the county town immediately. Therefore, the only possibility is that she took the highway. That is why you pursued us to that eatery. With every sentence I spoke, his steps slowed, and finally, he turned back. I said, "However, my pursuit here is due to a different lead." I held up the money he offered, stating I didn't need it. "Before you solve the case, I will not publish any news. But I wish to assist you in solving the case and apprehending the culprit swiftly. I want to work with you to solve the case and bring the perpetrator to justice as soon as possible." What is amusing about seeing someone off? To toy with life, to hold everyone in the palm of one's hand, that is truly interesting and stimulating. Moreover, the person in charge of the investigation is a man, and a handsome one at that. I once said dealing with men is like training a dog. Once trained well, he will obey obediently and will not leave even if you try to drive him away. Yi Hang returned to the dining table and sat opposite me. There is a type of poison that is colorless, odorless, and not lethal, but after consumption, it can render a person powerless, leaving them at the mercy of others. I took out my phone and found a picture for him, showing a small purple flower in full bloom. Have you ever heard of the Myla flower? No, this is a type of island flower used to treat headaches. It was once used as medicine, but later discovered to have side effects, so I used this flower to treat my migraines. I know this coincides with the forensic autopsy report. What is concerning is that they have not yet identified the source of the poison. Yi Hang looked at me in astonishment. I explained, this was something I heard from an elder when I traveled to the island previously. Therefore, I suspect the poison the victim ingested is related to this. He asked, which island? Yun Island. Yun Island. He asked doubtfully, are you sure? I asked back, why? Why do you think I'm sure? Yun Island is a very poor island with virtually no tourism, I sighed. You know my mother worries when I'm alone outside, so I imagine that in the few hours we were separated, you must have investigated my background down to the last detail. Wishing you all a good day. Although I am a rich young lady, I am by no means a delicate flower untouched by the world. I have been to Yun Island, whether for tourism or other reasons. It's not surprising that I know this information, he said quietly. If she didn't take the highway, then she could only take a boat from here to Yun Island. I felt he was about to be swayed by my words, but a second later, his expression changed, so she hoped we would go to Yun Island. Madam, I know you may not like the police, but plotting to use the police is a very dangerous matter. Whether your information is useful or not, I will investigate. As for whether I will go to Yun Island, as you said, when I go is none of your business, he said seriously. Again, I dare not hide anything. 2 hours ago, the Zhengbei police station received a report from your mother, saying she could not contact you and hoped the police would search for you. Otherwise, we would not have had to come back here. When the rain stops, I will send someone to take you back to Jiangbei. After speaking, he stood up to leave, giving me no chance to retort. What is it? I was so awake I almost jumped up. Speaking loudly, I did not contact her because I was afraid she would stop me. I am capable of deciding everything for myself. The rain is about to stop. The boat to Yun Island on the day after tomorrow will certainly depart on schedule. Whether you go or not is your business. Whether I go or not is my business. He was already far away, but I was still shouting, I don't need you to manage me. It seems the emergency call from my mother came at just the right time. I went to bed, and I clearly felt police officers guarding outside my room. But they were only afraid that I would run away, and that Madame Yu's mother would worry anxiously, and did not associate me with the villain who personally sent away a relative. I was very indignant, and in the middle of the night, I crawled out of bed, preparing to go out. The police officer responsible for guarding the door was a subordinate of Yi Hang. He extended his long arm, saying, Mrs. Yu has reported the case. The police have a responsibility. Please do not make things difficult for us. Yi Hang said, if you run away in the middle of the night, he will not bring me along to solve the case in the future, and you should not make things difficult for me either. I asked indignantly, you don't even know about hailstones in summer. What kind of police officer are you? Do you have education? He was so scolded by me that he choked, and finally said in a small voice, I was the top student in the university. What? I frowned, extremely surprised. I know about hailstones in summer, but let alone hailstones, even if it were a rain of knives, it could not stop our determination to solve the case and catch the culprit. Therefore, Miss Yu, your not causing trouble for us is equivalent to serving the people. I stayed for an hour, then changed the subject and asked, do you think the police are handsome? I glanced at him meaningfully, making him feel that I had other intentions. You solve cases and catch culprits, serving the people, so you don't need to get married and have children to continue the family line. I crossed my arms and leaned against the door frame. Any woman who saw your police officers couldn't help but look a few more times, right? Do your police officers have girlfriends? All day from morning to night investigating cases, you deal with nothing but corpses or culprits. Women who don't have a slightly larger than normal courage probably wouldn't dare to pursue him, would they? I asked him, do you think I'm suitable? As expected, men can't stand teasing. He clearly no longer dared to look directly at me, nor into my eyes. I stepped closer and asked him, when will your police escort arrive to guard me? I deliberately woke up, not to escape, but to tease him. He asked broadly, "Do you like our police escort?" He suddenly looked up and stared directly at me. His eyes, which were originally timid and unsure, were suddenly filled with aggression, forcing me to take a step back. He said seriously, "Our police escort. He hits very hard. I am often kicked down by him and find it difficult to get up." He pointed to the room and said, "Therefore, you should go back to sleep now, otherwise I will catch a huge rat and stuff it into your pants." How interesting. The top scorer of the college entrance examination. That is a top talent. Someone at this level, in front of the escort, can only be a subordinate. I tried to search online for the top scorers of the college entrance examination in recent years, and it is noteworthy that, perhaps to protect the personal information of the police, I could not find anything. I could only find out his name was Cui Xiao Yue through the admission information of that year, graduated from high school at Huaying Elite School. That is a high school that only the children of the wealthy could attend. I opened my computer and examined the situation in the adjacent room. There were 2 large men sleeping in the woods, snoring like thunder. The person who had been lying on the sofa had vanished without a trace. I was contemplating how far their investigation had progressed. Having come this far, even if the source of the poison hadn't been found, the origin of the gas should have been identified, shouldn't it? The video full of corpses was taken down within minutes of its spread online, but the shock it caused was considerable. As too many people were concerned about this incident, public opinion immediately erupted. This led to all sorts of discussions and speculations about the case details, with all kinds of conjectures hindering the police's investigation. Subsequently, the authorities strictly controlled information online. I had no way to follow their progress, so I had to approach them using my identity as a journalist. But relying solely on this identity to gain their trust might not be enough. I was pondering how to obtain their information, when suddenly I saw a face lean close to the camera, startling me. Yi Heng waved his hand in front of the lens, with a hint of suspicion but not much. Finally, he yawned widely and flopped back onto the sofa. But he wasn't sleeping. He was playing with his phone. Such high-intensity, mentally taxing work, and he doesn't fall asleep the moment he lies down. His energy is truly remarkable. I tried to rotate the camera, attempting to peek at his phone screen, but at this moment, I discovered my phone was ringing. It was an unknown number. However, if I'm not mistaken, this must be Yi Heng's phone, because in the surveillance video, he was dialing a number. Why would he call me at this hour? I hesitated for a moment before answering, pretending not to know it was him, and irritably asked, "Who is it disturbing me in the middle of the night?" "This is Yi Heng. What business is it of mine what your name is?" I paused for a moment, then asked, "Who was that?" "Yi Heng," he repeated once more. "Police investigator," I scoffed. "You're not sleeping in the middle of the night. Why are you calling me? Afraid I'll run away. Don't you realize how that sounds? Please? You're investigating a major case. This trivial matter of mine surely doesn't warrant the attention of a distinguished official like yourself." He asked me curiously. "I just did a quick search online. You've reported on child trafficking, surrogacy, and female students being deceived and sold. I want to ask you, does your work as a journalist have anything to do with your past experiences?" I tried to analyze the information in his statement. Firstly, he was extremely curious about me. Secondly, his source of information is extremely comprehensive because these things absolutely cannot be known by simply searching online. Thirdly, he seems to be trying to extract some information from me. He is probing my professionalism as a journalist. Is this question very important to you? He probably didn't expect me to answer like that. He paused for a moment and then replied, "It's not very important. I am just very impressed with you. At the same time, I also want to tell you, I am a police officer. If you need any help from me, I will help you unconditionally. The existence of the police is not only to solve cases and arrest culprits, but to maintain social order and protect citizens is also our duty. Perhaps my individual strength is very small, and the strength of our team cannot protect everyone, cannot solve all murder cases, and arrest all criminals in the world. But I want to say, every day, every hour, every minute and second, we are constantly striving for this goal. That sounds great, meaning I knew long ago that men's mouths were deceitful devils. I will not believe any man's words. However, I will deceive every man fairly." I asked with wide, tearful eyes, "Is that true?" "Officer, can I really trust you?" I clearly felt the breath of fluid becoming rapid. That's right. A man's hands are like their roots. Whether soft or hard seems beyond their control. What do you know? He suddenly sat up from the sofa in the surveillance video. I don't know anything, I said. I don't believe any woman would send her family away for no reason. They must have done something extremely outrageous to this girl. This matter even goes beyond so-called natural law and human morality. You police officers are responsible for pursuing and apprehending the culprit who solved the case, while we journalists are responsible for digging into the stories behind the murder. Yi Hang sighed softly and asked, So what have you dug up? I knew I had piqued his curiosity, so I deliberately asked, Do you want me to share the information privately with you tonight or tomorrow morning so I can share it with you and your colleagues? Yi Hang immediately stood up and said, There is a third option. My colleagues and I can share the information with you right now. This bed is not necessary. Then he drew up his legs and kicked the bed. Xiao Yue was right. He must have heard a lot. He smelled it. I clearly saw the two large men on the bed sit bolt upright. 10 minutes later, I was sitting with 4 police officers. I said with concern, There's no need to rush like this. Yi Hang pursed his lips and smiled, saying some things simply cannot be left overnight. He made an inviting gesture, signaling me to tell them the information I knew. I emphasized, We are sharing information now. I can speak, but after I finish, you must also speak. As police officers, you should keep your promises, shouldn't you? Yi Hang nodded, but this nod was very casual. Among them, some held paper and pens to take notes, some held recorders, and some simply stared at me. I asked, Is it necessary to stare at me like this? Yi Hang said, It's an occupational hazard in the interrogation room. We stare at suspects. So, you consider me a suspect? Yi Hang ignored my question and retorted, Don't you journalists have occupational hazards? Yes, so I'm used to hearing others speak first. Or perhaps you should speak first. Yi Hang let out a soft sigh, then took out his police badge again and said, I hope you will cooperate with the police in solving this case. I took a deep breath and said, I believe that you have already understood that a daughter who resents her own family to the point of not hesitating to kill them all must have endured extreme injustice. However, I went to the village where the suspect, Cui Xiao Yue, grew up to investigate. The Cui family seemed to have twins, but there was never a situation of favoring sons over daughters. This can be seen from the name itself. The suspect's name is Cui Xiao Yue, which contains the love, cherishing, and future expectations that parents have for their daughter. And her twin brother, born on the same day, is named Cui Xiao. One can imagine how perfunctory and indifferent it was. During the upbringing of the 2 children, the daughter was nurtured like a flower, cherished and pampered, while the son was like a free gift with a mobile phone purchase. Being beaten and scolded was a daily occurrence. A daughter raised in such a manner, after growing up, would then send her entire family away. Don't you see it, gentlemen? I asked. Yi Hang said, We have investigated. Although the villa was severely damaged by fire, according to the police investigation, there was indeed no room belonging to Cui Xiao Yue in the villa. Neighbors also confirmed that she had never lived in this villa for a single day. Therefore, we speculate that the Q family's upbringing of their daughter perhaps was only to wait for her to grow up so she could marry into a good family. This is another form of valuing males over females. I asked in surprise, but Cui Xiao Yue is already 28 years old. Is she married? Has anyone ever mentioned her marriage? I also found out that Cui Xiao Yue has an aunt named Cui Wang Shu. According to the old neighbors of the family, this aunt was also like Cui Xiao Yue. After growing up, she rarely appeared in public view. However, the Cui family was originally very poor. From the time their house was incomplete until they moved into the villa in the prosperous district of Jiangbei, the family underwent 2 major changes. One was 38 years ago. That year, Cui Wang Shu was 15 years old. Not long after, the family built a multi-story house in their hometown. One was 16 years ago, the year Cui Xiao Yue was 12 years old. A few years later, the family bought a villa in the prosperous area of Jiangbei. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yue could not help but interject. He tried to suppress his anger and concluded that the Q family was selling their daughters. Although he tried to restrain his emotions, Yi Hang felt he was not doing enough. He glanced at him with dissatisfaction and said, Which family sells daughters to buy a whole villa? A villa in the prosperous area of Jiangbei, the smallest of which costs tens of millions. Then there are decoration, furnishings, maintenance, and management fees. Each year is a huge expenditure. How many times can one daughter be sold? We have also investigated the family's capital. Father Cui and Cui Xiao Yue were construction contractors. Based on the evidence currently held by the police, their family's assets, legitimate sources, clear accounts can be traced. Wait a minute. As he spoke, Yi Hang's sharp eyes looked at me and asked, "How did you know Cui Xiao Yue has an aunt named Cui Wang Shu?" A moment of carelessness, not paying much attention to the logic. As soon as Yi Hang asked that, I realized I had inadvertently revealed the aunt's name too early. I tried to hide my expression and retorted, "Don't you know? Haven't you investigated yet?" "We have investigated, but I want to know, how did you find out?" I thought for a moment and said, "I used reverse thinking. Twin siblings, a boy and a girl, often carry this hereditary gene. This gene is hereditary. Very few people know about the existence of this aunt. So, I researched the family's history of wealth accumulation. I speculated whether Ku's father had a half-sister. After asking several times, I indeed found out." Yi Hang pressed further. "Who did you ask? When did you find out?" "We sent many colleagues to investigate for a long time. Heard only then did we learn of the existence of such a person, but no one knew her name. Cui Wang Shu, who told you this name? I must say working with the police requires extreme caution. Otherwise, a slight mistake could lead you into a trap. Miss, don't you think you're too clever for us police officers?" Yi Hang carefully assessed me. The gazes of the other police officers also became less friendly. I clearly felt the atmosphere in the room turn serious and cold, as if their handcuffs could be fastened around my wrists at any moment. I unconsciously leaned back, my back pressed tightly against the chair, pretending to speak casually. I said I would share information. "I've said so much, it's your turn to speak. After you finish speaking, I will tell you how I know." Yi Hang seemed to realize he had touched my inner defenses and unconsciously relaxed a little. "Just kidding. We police officers are only used to asking. If you want to know the information we have, then you should ask directly." Just as I was about to ask, he added another sentence. "However, one question for one question. You can lie, but you cannot refuse to answer. We are capable of discerning whether your words are true or false, but whether you can discern it depends on your own capabilities." I chuckled and said, "The police are interrogating. Isn't that a bit like bullying someone? You can wait for the police to solve the case, or we can interrogate you." Coherent, reasonable, and legal, he signaled me. "Ask away. There are no more inns after this village." "My first question is, how can you be certain that the culprit is Cui Xiao Yue, relying solely on the video footage? What if she intentionally said that?" Yi Hang held up 3 fingers and said, "These are 3 questions. I glanced at him with dissatisfaction. He conceded slightly. Xiao Yue replied, "The culprit had to poison them first before killing them, which shows she was incapable of carrying out the killings herself. If even one person in the Cui family could resist, she would not have been able to commit the murders. The entire Cui family was poisoned, proving they trusted the culprit implicitly. Although the scene was destroyed by a large fire, it was not difficult to discern that before the culprit acted, they had dinner with the Q family. Although the culprit has eliminated everyone in the Q family, it is clear that when she wielded the knife, she showed leniency towards the 2 young children and Cui Xiaoyue's wife. Evidently, the target of the culprit's hatred was Father Cui, Mother Cui, and Cui Xiao. Apart from Cui Xiao Yue, no one else could satisfy this motive for the crime. Furthermore, there is witness testimony from neighbors confirming that Cui Xiao Yue did indeed return to the Q residence that day. Yi Hang's additional finding, the most crucial point, is the discovery of the culprit's DNA on the murder weapon. I exclaimed in realization, understanding dawning upon me. As expected, the police possess more crucial clues. Before I could finish speaking, Yi Hang's voice, laden with pressure, inquired, "How did you know Cui Xiao Yue's paternal aunt's name was Cui Wang Shu?" I didn't expect that the police had not yet identified the aunt's name, nor did I anticipate that finding someone who knew her name would be so difficult. However, it is understandable, as she left the Q family 30-odd years ago. The more I hesitated, the more suspicious Yi Hang's gaze became. If I couldn't explain myself clearly this time, I feared he would immediately seize upon any inconsistency to interrogate me further. I mumbled in reply, "I know Cui Xiao Yue." In an instant, I felt their eyes light up. Because, up to now, the police have not been able to uncover Cui Xiao Yue's social connections. In this world, It seems that besides the Cui family, no one knew about her past. However, before they could ask me further, Xiao Yue received a phone call, and his expression changed dramatically. He then excitedly reported to Yihang, "Sir, Captain Chen said they found Cui Xiao Yue's car. The police, through the large amount of gasoline used to burn the villa, found the car that had recently stored a large quantity of gasoline. Then, by confirming the car's trajectory, they deduced Cui Xiao Yue's whereabouts, which led them to this small town. Finding this car had always been their priority. Yihang rushed to the scene. Because their car was submerged and couldn't be driven, they used my car after showing their police badges. I also took the opportunity to make a bold request and accompanied them to the scene. The car was being lifted from the water by a tow truck. A middle-aged man in a police uniform approached, his face complex, and shook his head, saying, "There was no one in the car." Yihang observed the surroundings and asked, "Why did she deliberately choose this place?" The man pointed to the dense forest opposite and said, "There is only a very narrow mountain road over there, with a cliff on one side and a deep ravine on the other. A slight misstep would result in utter destruction. She risked driving from over there. The car fell into the water. If it weren't for a villager accidentally finding it while looking for a lost dog, no one would have discovered it. With the clue of the car gone, it was unlikely anyone would find her anymore." Yihang looked at the tire tracks on the ground and asked doubtfully, "It rained so heavily yesterday, the tire tracks are no longer clear. How did the villagers deduce that a car had fallen into the water?" The villager followed the dogs, and the dogs kept barking. He sensed something was wrong and reported it to the police. Yihang asked again, "When did the lost pigeon go missing? Before or after the rain?" The police officer thought for a moment and said, "There were too many pigeons? So I don't know exactly when it got lost. But I didn't check the weather forecast and wasn't aware of the extreme weather yesterday. When the wind picked up, he started herding the pigeons home. Upon returning, he discovered one was missing. Then it's highly likely it got lost before the rain started. The villager's dog was with the flock of pigeons every day. She deliberately led the dog to this area." Yihang asked again, "Have there been any signs of human activity in the vicinity?" Xiao Yue reminded them, "Broken wild grass stems caused by hail are different from traces left by people walking. Broken from the top indicates external force, but broken from the bottom could be left by people or animals passing through. Are there any specific areas?" The police officer shook his head uncertainly. Yihang signaled his colleagues to look around, and their replies were all negative. Yihang looked at the water ahead and said, "So, after she fell into the water, she never surfaced here. But there's no body in the water. Not coming out from here doesn't mean she didn't come out from somewhere else. She's a very good swimmer." At this moment, Yihang's gaze suddenly fell on me, making me feel quite unnerved. I asked, "Why are you looking at me like that? Don't you know her?" The police officer, who was likely a local officer assisting the investigation, perked up upon hearing Yihang and asked, "Have you found her social connections?" I quickly denied knowing her, explaining that I knew her from the past, not the present. "I've known her for 10 years. Yihang continued to stare at me, which was quite chilling. Then he said, "I'm sorry, Ms. Yu, but we'll have to ask you to come to the police station to talk." I smiled ingratiatingly and asked, "Isn't it unnecessary?" He nodded very seriously. "It is necessary." I must admit, their progress in solving the case was quite rapid. I had expected them to find the car tomorrow afternoon, but they found it before dawn. I returned with them to the police station in this small town, and along the way, I heard their officers complaining. Why did the suspect in the Jiangbei case deliberately run to our small town? How many police forces do we have here? No matter how we cooperate, we can only help so much. Last night, I guess, no one got much sleep, so he looked very tired. But Yihang truly seized every second, not resting for a moment. I suggested, "Officer Yi, you see, I was woken up by your phone call in the middle of the night, and I had to trek through mountains and rivers with you before dawn. I'm hungry and sleepy now. How about we rest for a while? Anyway, my mental state is not good, and the credibility of my words is low, isn't it? Words spoken when the body is tired are the most truthful, aren't they?" I stated resolutely, "I am not your suspect. No matter how I cooperate with the police investigation, you cannot prevent me from eating or drinking, can you?" Then answer quickly and concisely. Yi Hang's attitude became even tougher. The longer you hesitate, the more time you waste. So, if you are hungry and sleepy and have nothing to eat or drink, it is your own fault. I was really angered to death, but I could only concede and said, "Then give me back my phone. Let me call my mother." "Is that okay?" They asked for my assistance in the investigation, and then they confiscated my phone. Seeing his hesitation, I quickly said, "I am only assisting in the investigation now, not a suspect." "Can't I even make a phone call?" I had originally planned to call my mother today. Yi Hang remained silent at this point and returned my phone, but it was clear he had no intention of letting me leave. I didn't care. As soon as the phone connected, my mother's worried voice came through. San, where are you? You haven't come home yet. I'm so worried about you." "Mom, I'm with the police from Jiangbei. Please don't worry too much." The voice on the other end was almost in tears. "Mom, don't worry. I'm scared. I'm really scared." I comforted her, saying that fear is useless. Children must grow up eventually and face problems on their own. "Mom, you should find something to distract yourself, like tidying up old things at home, reading, or arranging flowers. Don't worry about me all the time. In short, Mom, remember that I am safe." I hung up and said to Yi Hang, "Officer Yi, why don't we add each other as friends?" He glanced at me with dissatisfaction, saying, "You're too much." I quickly handed the phone back to him, thinking, if you don't want to add me, why be so grumpy? He didn't want to waste time with me and got straight to the point. "When did you meet Cui Xiao Yue?" 10 years ago. "Where?" "I don't know." "Didn't you already investigate my background thoroughly?" 10 years ago, I was 15 years old and was abducted by human traffickers. It was during that time that I met Cui Xiao Yue. Yi Hang seemed to have anticipated this outcome and wasn't too surprised, but he still asked with some emotion, "Was Cui Xiao Yue also abducted by human traffickers?" "Impossible." "Yes, of course. It's impossible. Wouldn't any family search for their missing child?" The most unbelievable thing is that 10 years ago, Cui Xiao Yue was already 18 years old, an adult. An adult being abducted without a sound and their family not noticing is definitely not normal. I shook my head. She wasn't abducted, she was one of the traffickers. What this time? It was Yi Hang's turn to be shocked. Perhaps it's unfair to say so, but after I was abducted, Cui Xiao Yue herself was responsible for helping me psychologically. She advised me not to resist and to obey obediently, otherwise I would suffer untold hardships. Her appearance didn't resemble that of a human trafficker. When you investigated the Cui family, you must have known Cui Xiao Yue had been a beauty since childhood. The Cui family raised her like a flower, fair and clean, with eyes like paintings, truly a perfectly sculpted jade. When I met her, it was during the most beautiful years of my life. That year, I couldn't find any words to describe her beauty. I only felt it was astonishingly beautiful. When she smiled at me, it was like the dawn breaking through the ice, brilliant yet gentle, bright yet warm, as if it immediately pulled me out of my predicament, filling me with hope and vitality. Speaking of this, I cannot help but feel choked up. Therefore, I absolutely do not believe she would abduct anyone. You don't know how gentle she is. She once held my hand. Her skin was smooth and white as jade. Her whole body seemed boneless, a delicate and tender appearance. How could a woman like that abduct someone? Yi Hang became increasingly uneasy, exchanging glances with Xiao Yue beside him. Then he said, "Miss, you should rest first." "Hey, what's wrong with you? Didn't you insist I speak now?" He paid me no mind and left directly. Only Xiao Yue and I remained in the room. I asked, "Why is he like that? Will he have this attitude even with his girlfriend later?" Xiao Yue said with a wry smile, "Didn't I already tell you? Whether you are telling the truth or lying, we can discern it. Obstructing the police investigation will indeed lead to arrest," Xiao Yue emphasized, "regardless of your past experiences. They cannot be a reason for you to obstruct the police investigation. I am speaking logically, I am not lying. Everything I say is the truth. How can a cornered person have the mood to appreciate another's beauty and come up with so many words?" I retorted, "Doesn't that highlight Cui Xiao Yue's beauty even more?" That was my feeling at the time. Xiao Yue thought for a moment and said, "When people are in an extreme environment, everything they see is what their inner self fears. No matter how beautiful and radiant a flower is, it will appear dim, and the bright sunlight will become dazzling, and a gentle breeze will feel bone-chilling." I was about to say something else when someone brought breakfast and water. He sighed, "Eat up." After I had eaten and drunk my fill, he said again. Get some rest. I asked curiously, are you going to watch me sleep again? He glanced at me displeasedly. You should know you will not be free anytime soon. I may not be free, but can you return the truth? I said, a little annoyed. I am cooperating with you like this, yet you still haven't investigated anything. The police investigate cases objectively, while journalists like you are too subjective. He said seriously, regardless of the reason. Cui Xiao Yue committed murder and arson. I am an instrument of justice. Our responsibility is to apprehend her. I pursed my lips and let out a cold laugh. Back then I was cornered. The police couldn't find me, nor could they save me. I found a way to escape on my own. But when the police saw that I had escaped, what did they do? No one cared about what I had gone through. They only kept asking who had captured me, where I was taken, and how I escaped. I was the victim, but the police made me feel like a suspect. I was cornered, which was unreasonable. My safe escape is also unreasonable. Therefore, they kept asking, kept investigating. Then, they made me recall the suffering I had endured again and again. In the end, they even blamed me for not cooperating with the police investigation. They said I was too selfish. If only I had revealed the perpetrator's features, the place of detention, the escape route, and so on, they could have apprehended the criminal. This way, others could be spared from harm, but I refused to say anything. I thought that after escaping, I would be saved. But in reality, I had only fallen into a deeper abyss. After that, my spirit collapsed, and I was in constant despair, admitted to the hospital with severe psychological trauma. At this point, no one cared about me anymore. Everyone advised me to be strong. It was I who, little by little, overcame all difficulties, enduring all the pain and humiliation I had suffered, gradually reconciling with this world. I became a journalist, exposing the wickedness in this world time and again. But what was the point? The victims were dead, injured were injured, and what happened, happened. Besides those truly harmed, who would stop to console those pathetic, deceitful individuals? I repeatedly emphasized that perhaps Cui Xiao Yue did indeed kill people. But even so, they deserve to die. You can arrest her and the court can sentence her to death. But to me, she will forever be the best and most beautiful person in this world. Otherwise, I could not have escaped that year. The person your police could not protect, she protected. I emphasized she was not wrong. No one has the right to arrest her. The poison originates from Yue Island. The suspect is an extremely skilled swimmer. Suppose at this moment they trace the murder weapon back to Yue Island as well, and they still do not go to Yue Island? Then I can only say these police officers are useless. They were busy all day. The next day they came to confirm with me whether I was kidnapped to Yue Island that year. I shook my head. I wasn't sure. I was unconscious when I was kidnapped that year. After escaping, I only remember running for a long time in a large mountain. Then I saw the sea. Finally, to avoid pursuit, I jumped into the sea. They did not expect me to survive. I myself did not expect it. By the time I woke up again, I didn't know how many days had passed. The period of time after I found my way home, my spirit was in a state of panic every day. Many memories were also suppressed. I could not distinguish clearly between what was real and what I had imagined. Perhaps it was the body's self-preservation mechanism that activated those terrible things. I simply could not recall them. Try to think. Your head will ache as if split by an axe. It wasn't until several years later that my life gradually returned to peace. In order to heal my emotional wounds, I gradually explored the memories that had been sealed away. I am a journalist. Besides wanting to expose the evils of the world and speak out for those sufferings, I also just wanted to find those who had harmed me back then. But I was never entirely sure. It wasn't until the Massacre case occurred. It wasn't until the name Cui Xiao Yue reappeared in my life that I felt that year I was indeed taken to Yue Island. In my mind, there were once images of those small purple flowers. Speaking of which, I confess, yes, I lied to you all. I have never been to Yue Island, nor is there any old woman. These purple flowers were something I accidentally saw in a newspaper. It triggered a long-buried memory of mine. Those people back then used this kind of flower to control me. Without any processing, just by eating this flower, one could become completely powerless and be at the mercy of others. Compared to beatings and torture, this method was indeed low cost, highly efficient, and very effective. They knew I would lie. They always maintained a skeptical attitude towards my words. But people, as long as the window paper is not pierced, they will always find a way to convince themselves to believe the narrative they want to believe. However, once the window paper is pierced, all sorts of shattering window effects will follow in succession. I could clearly feel their vigilance and suspicion intensifying, but at this stage of the case, they had no other option but to go to Yue Island. Parents, elders, siblings, in-law, even a 3-year-old child. This was not merely a criminal case violating the law, but a shocking case that transgressed moral principles. For every day the police delayed solving the case, the public would remain confused for another day. Not to mention the provocation in the video. If the police could not apprehend the perpetrator, would all family matters eventually be resolved behind closed doors, with the police having no right to intervene? Regardless of who I am or whether my words are credible, at this moment I am their only lead, or perhaps I am their lifesaver. However, considering what they saw, what they heard the moment they set foot on Yue Island, the mixture of excitement and fear in my heart was hard to describe. Yi Hang rarely spoke directly to me anymore. He always gestured for Xiao Yue to speak. Xiao Yue, receiving the signal, cautiously asked me, "Could you accompany us to Yue Island?" I blurted out I had intended to go anyway. Yi Hang seemed to eagerly await my response and immediately stood up. His tall, sturdy figure completely blocked my view. But what I felt was not a sense of security, but rather oppression and disgust, even nausea. Yi Hang led his original group of 4, plus Captain Chen, prepare to board the boat to Yue Island. I asked in surprise, "Are there only these few people?" Captain Chen explained, "Ms. Yu probably doesn't understand Yue Island well. In fact, the island is very small, and the residents there are also very few. Currently, there may only be a few elderly people left, women and children. Previously, they made a living from fishing, but with many fishing bans, their catches were not enough to support their families, so many islanders have migrated elsewhere. Those who could endure the poverty and loneliness on the island were all people with a strong sense of family. Instinctively, they also disliked police intervention in their affairs. Therefore, as long as no criminal case occurs, their internal conflicts can be resolved by themselves. Then we police will not intervene if we don't have to. We are also concerned that suddenly deploying a large number of police officers will cause them to panic." I asked curiously, "So, what if they do something evil on the island? Won't anyone know?" "That's not the case. Yue Island has only one ferry route connecting to the outside, and besides, what major trouble can a group of elderly people, women, and children cause? Their lives still depend on government support to some extent." Hearing this, I just smiled and said nothing more. On the boat, I felt so nauseous that I thought I was going to throw up. Yi Hang frowned. "Why don't you just say you're seasick?" I took seasickness medication, but I just didn't have a chance to say it at the time. I said weakly, "Isn't it because you didn't let me go with you?" Yi Hang signaled Xiao Yue to find me a comfortable place to sit. The boat trip would likely take just over 2 hours, so there were only hard seats. There were no beds, few passengers, and the boat was not large. The cabin felt very cramped. I asked Xiao Yue to help me to the railing. Perhaps looking at the sky outside would make me feel a little better. As a result, I leaned directly onto his chest. He grumbled in dissatisfaction. "You're drunk." I apologized. "I'll pay for your dry cleaning." He knew it wouldn't do any good, so he took a deep breath, enduring the sour stench on his body. I teased him. "Aren't you the top student of the university? Do you know how to get rid of drunkenness?" He glared at me. "Can I knock you out with my bare hands?" I quickly stopped him. "Don't be reckless, don't be fooled by movies. Such actions can be fatal." I leaned against the railing, chuckling. "Wishing you all a good day." I sat by the railing, still feeling very uncomfortable. I feigned weakness. "Officer, could I borrow your shoulder to lean on for a moment?" He reluctantly agreed, but sat down beside me, generously offering his shoulder. I said, "Actually, I'm very scared. What if this is truly the island that imprisoned me back then? Would I really be strong enough to face the hardships and humiliation I endured that year?" Xiao Yue sighed softly, his tone becoming very gentle. "Don't worry, the police will protect you. As expected, a top university student is just that. I doubt he's ever experienced love." Setting foot on Yue Island once again, my emotions were complex. Excitement, allure, and at the same time, fear and panic. If not for so many police officers accompanying me, I absolutely would not have dared to come. It's a pity that the police let me lean on them as a shield, while I was solely focused on how to advance. Yun Island. Is this Yun Island? I don't know why. The interpreter's tone was somewhat agitated. He asked Captain Chen, have you been here before? Captain Chen said, I followed the captain once. Although it's poor here, the scenery is not bad. I looked up, the sky was azure blue, just like the sea. Sunlight stretched across the sea, painting beautiful and pleasant pictures. It is indeed beautiful. So why isn't tourism developed here? The warm climate here must be very suitable. If promoted further, getting rich through tourism would only be a matter of time. There was a plan before, but many developers assessed the investment and returns were disproportionate, so it was abandoned. There was someone at the dock to meet the boat, to avoid alarming them. Captain Chen said our group was government representatives visiting the elderly, specially bringing fresh produce for them, because the land on Yun Island is not suitable for growing vegetables. Ordinary vegetables from outside, here are rare tubers. It's not entirely elderly people here. There are also some relatively young women. Some are daughters, in-law caring for the elderly at home. Some are nannies hired by their children. Some are daughters, in-law caring for the elderly at home, accompanied by a few young children. Captain Chen said that more than 10 years ago, there was still a school here, but later the population became too small, and it is an island, prone to typhoons and tsunamis. For the safety of the children, the school was dismantled. Therefore, children who want to attend kindergarten must go out to live. Otherwise, it would be too arduous for them. The government also proposed to relocate all residents here to another place, but many elderly people have lived here their entire lives, and their ancestors have lived here for generations, so they refused to relocate. The islanders welcomed us very warmly, making the translator and others feel a bit unaccustomed, completely different from their imagination. After all, they did not understand Yun Island well, and they were bound to have prejudices, thinking that this place was a dangerous mountainous region, with poisonous water breeding fierce people, trafficking women, and imprisoning young girls, with heinous crimes. However, in reality, the people here are simple and honest. The residents are united and loving. The environment here is beautiful, and the climate is pleasant at this time. Looking at the smiles on the faces of the elderly, they truly didn't know what to do, where to begin. At noon, we accepted the invitation of the elders and gathered for a meal at an old woman's house. The old woman killed a chicken and plucked a goose, bringing out the best food in her house to entertain us. After chatting for a long time, the translator hesitantly asked, Madam, are there any young, beautiful women on the island recently? The old woman smiled. Why would young, beautiful women come to our place? So, in the past few days, who came to Yun Island? The old woman still shook her head. Only one boat came here, did it or not? You boys can ask the captain. They had already asked early on. Even the information about the island's residents they had thoroughly researched, but found nothing. Yi Hang asked again, so is it possible that they swam over? Did someone sneak in? Did you notice? The old woman laughed heartily. This young man is quite humorous. This is the vast ocean, not a small river. Unless she is a marine creature, otherwise, they would all drown in this sea. Besides, there is nothing here. Why would they sneak here? If she were here, she would need to eat and drink. How could we not have noticed? Yi Hang was disappointed again, but he did not give up and continued to ask, Madam, 10 years ago, did anything special happen on Yun Island? 10 years ago. The old woman indeed thought seriously and then said, there probably wasn't anything special. Our lives here are the same every day. What's special about it? She asked another old man, who thought for a moment and said, 10 years ago, a baby was born here. It was Li Dan's son. He was originally going back to his hometown to visit relatives for the new year, but unexpectedly gave birth prematurely. At that time, there were already few people on the island and no resident doctor. After that, we had to invite Mrs. Liu, who specializes in assisting sows during farrowing, to help. It was very difficult. When the baby cried for the first time, everyone cried with joy. The old woman immediately chimed in. That's right, that's right. Then the old folks recalled some impressive events, but none were related to what I mentioned. They ate slowly, I ate quickly. Seeing the old woman preparing fruit for us, I then went over to peel and cut the fruit for them with a fruit knife. Yi Hang glanced at me inadvertently, his eyes full of suspicion, and asked again, are there any small purple flowers here? The elders all shook their heads. Probably not. Purple flowers are very distinctive. If there were, we would definitely know. That's it? I felt Yihang wished he could kick me because I had lied, and he was also very annoyed because he had believed me. But just then, someone called from outside, "Sister, I've brought the tubers for you." The old woman enthusiastically went out to greet her. "You're just in time for dinner. Haven't you eaten? Get some bowls and chopsticks." The man came in. Although slightly younger than the other elders, his hair was already streaked with silver. He smiled at us. "Oh, do we have guests?" "They are government officials, bringing us tubers," the man said, wiping sweat from his forehead, and asked us. However, at this moment, everyone's attention was no longer on him. Yihang's eyes were fixed on the jungle knife hanging at his waist. "Uncle, could I please take a look at this knife of yours?" The man, though slightly puzzled, still readily took off the jungle knife and handed it to him. "What's so special about this knife?" Yihang exchanged glances with his colleagues, then asked the man again. "This knife doesn't look much like a regular jungle knife." "Of course not. The knives where I come from are not only used for chopping wood, but also for self-defense. It's a bit longer than a normal jungle knife, and the tip is like a dagger connected together. It looks a bit unusual, but we're used to it and it's very handy," the man said, laughing. "Do you find it strange?" Yihang did not answer, his expression very grave. Holding the handle of the knife, he made a few gestures in the air. Captain Chen sighed, wanting to say something, but seemed unsure how to put it. It was understandable. The atmosphere at the scene. They had studied it for a long time and still didn't know what the knife was originally used for. It wasn't until I mentioned Yun Island that they thought to look it up. However, very few people use this type of knife anymore. Consequently, no definitive answers were obtained, even though at this moment, all evidence seemed to have formed a closed circle. It doesn't matter where the suspect fled, but she must have had intricate ties to Yun Island. No one had the appetite to eat anymore. Yihang stood up to excuse himself, then said, "We need to inspect the island's surroundings to eliminate potential safety hazards." The man said cheerfully, "The government is truly wonderful, thinking of everything for us." The old woman said, "Nowadays, typhoons and tsunamis can be predicted, so everyone knows how to respond. If there is a risk, it can only be man-made fire, as many houses here still use firewood. But every house has a fire extinguisher and firefighters come periodically to train us, so it's very safe." Xiao Yue asked, "What about the cliffs on the island?" The man laughed. "We don't go to those places, and besides, my limbs are weak now. I can't climb them." Yihang said, "We still need to go and see. The more dangerous the place, the fewer people go there." Everyone implicitly understood that the cliffs were dangerous, and therefore, very few people climbed them, making the journey arduous for everyone. Captain Chen said, "Officer Yi, what are you suspecting? Is the suspect hiding on the cliffs?" The old woman made a good point. Even if she could swim here, she would need to eat and drink, but the residents here noticed nothing unusual. Food is one thing, but water is more problematic. Most of the water here cannot be drunk directly. The possibility of her hiding on the cliff is very low. Yihang walked straight ahead, ignoring his question. "After all, I am a woman, and this path is very strenuous." Xiao Yue seemed to intentionally or unintentionally slow down to wait for me. "Do you have any impression of this place?" He stood at the top and gestured towards me, intending to pull me. I looked up at the sky, then looked around and shook my head helplessly. "I don't remember. But I do remember that when I escaped from that place that year, I was on the cliff, so the place I need to find must be up there. However, the higher I climbed, the harder it was to pinpoint my memory from that year. This place is extremely ordinary, with no man-made structures, just natural scenery. Not to mention people. There isn't even a trace of human activity. Occasionally, a few seabirds would fly by, their cries echoing clearly. Otherwise, it was utter silence." "Purple flowers," Yihang suddenly exclaimed. Everyone looked up at him. He was already standing at the summit of the island. He pointed southwest. The setting sun reflected off the cliff face, revealing several small purple flowers swaying gently on the cliff over there. He rushed over, and everyone else hurried to follow. A colleague exclaimed excitedly, "Are there really purple flowers?" Another colleague added, "So Cui Xiao Yue did all this just to lure the police to this small island. What secrets does this small island hold?" Captain Chen frowned. "What secrets could such a small island possibly hold? I've been a police officer for so many years, and I've never encountered such a difficult case." I was anxious. But as soon as I hurried, I stumbled. I cried out in pain. Xiao Yue rushed over to support me. Are you all right? Now you believe me, don't you? I looked at him sincerely. Everything I said is true. I'm not lying to you. Xiao Yue replied, I never said you were lying. Whether it's true or false, we will make our own judgment. We will investigate whether this type of flower is poisonous or can cause amnesia. I impatiently brushed his hand away. In the end, you don't believe anything I say. Without me, you might not have found the source of the poison. I struggled to get up. Officer Yi Hang, I have been entirely devoted to you, haven't I? Please return my camera. You cannot let me make this trip in vain. Yi Hang was engrossed in examining the small flowers, paying no attention to me. I wondered if he could even hear me. Xiao Yue replied, we already have someone taking pictures. After the case is concluded, we will give you exclusive news, so why get angry? I don't trust you. I pouted, the sound of waves crashing against the rocks, surging in waves, as if awakening painful memories within me. I clutched my chest and sobbed softly. Seeing me like this, Xiao Yue was at a loss. He sat down and asked, what's wrong? He thought I was scared and tried to comfort me. I don't know why the police officer in charge couldn't find you back then, but today, we will definitely ensure your safety. Do not be afraid. Perhaps for you, those are extremely painful memories, but once the police bring them to justice, the knots in your heart will naturally be untangled. I looked up at him with tear-filled eyes, placed my hand on his, and pleaded, could you help me over there to take a look? I have a feeling I jumped from there that year. I can't understand why there are no traces at all. Could it be that after I escaped, they felt their crimes might be discovered and completely abandoned this place? However, so many people, so many crimes, did they all disappear silently? I stood on the cliff, recalling the scene from that year. That's right, it was this place. The sun shone down on the cliff, the rocks reflecting the light. The waves relentlessly crashed against the shore, and seagulls soared in the sky. I ran barefoot on the path full of sharp rocks, with the sound of barking dogs and the shouts of pursuers behind me. The feeling of death descended upon me like a waterlogged cotton blanket, heavy and suffocating. Helplessness enveloped me. I had no choice but to jump. But why has everything disappeared? That magnificent and seemingly endless palace, those incredibly opulent and dazzling decorations, the bustling banquet hall, a scene of prosperity. The brilliant stage lights, the sparkling jewels, the men laughing heartily, the graceful and alluring women. All that revelry and decadent luxury, why has it all vanished? I have been through so much, but never have I felt such despair. If my previous tears were all feigned to elicit sympathy from men, then at this moment I gazed out at the vast, boundless sea and up at the sky, as if newly washed. Gazing at the simple, peaceful island, tears streamed down like rain, uncontrollable. The pain in my chest was no longer feigned, but a profound, heart-wrenching agony. 10 years of planning, ultimately just a futile struggle of an ant trying to shake a tree. Years of resentment and hatred, in the eyes of a powerful enemy, were merely a fragile spiderweb, utterly disregarded. Xiao Yue is perceptive. His gaze upon me now is entirely different. I feel he can empathize with my pain, understand my suppressed anguish and sorrow. Yue Wen Shan's family, those matters are in the past. Believe us, believe the police. We will certainly apprehend the criminals who wronged you, and we will delve into Cui Xiao Yue's story. Please do not be like this. I looked at him, my heart in turmoil, my steps faltering. I wanted to believe him, yet dared not. I wished to change my mind, but felt more resolute than ever. I told him, I'm sorry, facing him. I took 2 steps back and said resolutely, I'm sorry. You shouldn't have trusted me. The real game has only just begun. However, this game comes at the cost of your life. Without warning, a fruit knife appeared in my hand. I was certain that year I was indeed framed on this island. I have no way to find any evidence of a crime, nor can I expect the police to follow my line of reasoning indefinitely. The only thing I can do is to eliminate a police officer, ensuring this case remains perpetually pursued. Xiao Yue had completely let down his guard around me. Even as I repeatedly apologized, he never anticipated my intention to kill him. He even stepped closer, asking, what's wrong with your head? This made it easier for me to stab the knife into his heart. However, at the critical moment, Yi Hang shouted, Xiao Yue, be careful! She is Cui Xiao Yue! Xiao Yue heard the shout and instinctively turned his head. Upon realizing the truth, he instinctively resisted me, but he had lost the initiative. The moment he turned, I struck. As he attempted to resist, my knife plunged directly into his neck. Due to the urgency, I didn't have time to check if I had hit his heart. I pulled the knife out, intending to stab him a few more times to ensure his death.
Cui Xiao Yue! Yi Hang shouted, "Stop!"
Regardless of why you harmed your own family, or why you insisted on luring us to this island, if you kill a police officer, you will truly never be able to turn back. I looked up at him. Their guns were already aimed at me. I had no choice but to use the injured Cui Xiao Yue as a shield. Don't come any closer. If you take one more step, I'll kill him, I threatened. Cui Xiao Yue seemed to be severely injured, completely unable to resist, and had no choice but to let me hold the knife to his corroded artery. Don't move. The distance is too far, and I can't guarantee I'll only shoot your hand. If I accidentally kill you, then neither Yue Wen Shan's story nor Cui Xiao Yue's story will ever be known. I could only yell at them to stop advancing. I sneered. You're very interested in their story, aren't you? Will you believe me if I tell you? Besides myself, I have no evidence. It's all one-sided talk. Do you believe me? I said this island hides unspeakable crimes. Many women were brought here. They were meticulously trained by criminals into slaves to serve men. Countless men trekked through mountains and rivers to find pleasure here. Do you believe me? Look, there's nothing left here. Besides mountains, water, and these plants, there are only about 100 lonely old people. Could they be criminals? Could they be the aged appearance of criminals? I don't know. But my intuition tells me it's impossible. It's only been 10 years. How could they be this old? Moreover, the government agencies are well aware of their information. During holidays or typhoons, people visit and offer comfort. If they were criminals, wouldn't they have hidden themselves too well? They are just a facade chosen by criminals, and no one would ever suspect. Such a small island with simple folk, such kind and benevolent old people, hiding such heinous crimes behind them. Yi Hang quickly said, I will investigate. Even if I die, someone else will investigate. If you have been wronged, justice will be served. Similarly, you have killed someone, and you must accept the judgment of the law. I advise you not to make one mistake after another. Extreme methods can never truly solve problems. What if the investigation yields no results? I asked curiously. What if the evidence is destroyed wherever the investigation goes? What if there are no clues after many years? Will you suspect I'm lying then? Or will you still firmly believe your judgment now? Yi Hang could not answer any of my questions. I increasingly felt how ridiculous I was and couldn't help but laugh out loud. I said, Yi Hang, the person I wanted to kill initially was you. I know your influence. You are the shining star police officer in Jiangbei, the hero in the hearts of the people, and the executioner in the eyes of criminals. Your death would surely cause a stir, and more people would pay attention to this case. But you are too wise. You didn't take my bait, so I had no choice but to harm the young police officer beside you. Do top students always dedicate all their time and energy to studying, making them too naive about human relationships and romantic love? I only confided in him a few times, and he listened to my every word. He died because of you. You won't let him die in vain, will you? I heard your relationship was closer than that of sworn brothers, I said, holding the knife in my hand. I did kill someone. But who made me a killer? It was what I went through, the hardships I endured over the years, and the wicked people who harmed me, forcing me to resort to this method to deal with you police officers. As I was speaking, sirens suddenly echoed from afar. I looked up and saw helicopters in the sky. It would be a lie to say I wasn't scared, but I was also happy that they were willing to invest so much to catch me. I asked Yi Hang, when exactly did you see through me? Were there any flaws in the identity of Yue Wen Shan? Yi Hang took a step closer to me and said, there were no flaws in Yue Wen Shan's identity. There were no flaws in anything you said. It's just that I just tasted a small purple flower. I had no other abnormal symptoms. I just wanted to try, because Cui Xiao Yue couldn't have just vanished from this world. Police from various places are coordinating the pursuit. Even if she had wings, she couldn't escape. Cui Xiao Yue has been away from home for many years, and no one knows her appearance. But with today's high technology, her appearance can be reconstructed based on the photos of her parents and relatives. Therefore, you set fire to the house, destroying the appearance of the deceased and all belongings. Even if the police find photos of the Q family through other channels, without the deceased for comparison, the accuracy will be greatly reduced. This way, you can hide under the guise of Yue Wen Shan. Yue Wen Shan's identity was too clear. It was too easy for us to trace. Perhaps that was the biggest loophole you left. Of course, you weren't afraid of this loophole, he said. Whether it's Yue Wen Shan's story, the stories of both Cui Xiao Yue, you are screaming to tell us, to the police, that a group of people are hiding behind the scenes, doing evil and illegal things, harming innocent girls like flowers. Yihang persuaded, you can't escape. The only way is to come back to the police station with us for investigation. Those descending from the helicopters appear to be special forces, fully equipped. Let alone me being a weak woman. Even if I had the power to ascend to heaven and descend to earth, facing such combat forces, I would only have one path: death. Officer Yi, will you continue the investigation? Yihang stated firmly, I definitely will. What if there are no results? This time, he answered me with utmost certainty, then I will investigate forever. What if you find powerful people? As long as they commit a crime, they are criminals, treated equally. I asked again, what if all men in the world commit crimes? Men in the world, Yihang asked. Utterly confused, what about men in the world? Besides men, who else could harm women? He could no longer argue with me logically and eloquently as before. Stepfather sexually abuses 3-month-old daughter. Stepfather rapes his wife's stepdaughter. Stepparent abandons new lover to harm his own flesh and blood. Man is rejected, ashamed and enraged, stabbing the other person more than 20 times to death. Husband plants poison to claim insurance money. Husband abuses wife, no case filed. Wife fights back against abusive husband, but is charged with murder. Man abandons his own daughter because he wants a son. Mr. Lang, 70, murdered a 6-year-old girl simply because she kindly gave him a steamed bun. I yelled, and don't you watch the news? I lost my parents, my siblings, my sister-in-law, even my 3-year-old nephew, forcing you to send in special forces. Forcing you to repeatedly tell me I violated the law and morality. What about them? I hate it so much. Why isn't a female police officer in charge of this case? Then they could understand what I have endured my whole life. Why is it a male police officer? Why is there not a single female police officer among the investigators? I asked Yihang again, will you help me? For a small, insignificant woman like me, a female criminal who has violated the law and morality in your eyes, will you punish those who are truly acting outrageously? Yihang said nothing. I became more desperate, screaming wildly, no, you won't do that. You will only push me before the court and then use a death sentence for me to protect justice and the sanctity of the law. As for why I ended up like this, how much suffering I endured, and what kind of harm I experienced, no one would care at all. Yihang looked at my frantic state, completely unsure how to speak, because every word he said could provoke me, and then the hostage in my hand would immediately lose her life. However, at this very moment, Cui Xiao Yue softly said to me, continuing like this is meaningless. You kill me, and then they shoot you. The case ends here completely. The only thing you can do now is to control me and escape into that forest. As long as you are alive, the police will continue to investigate. While others haven't arrived yet, act quickly, otherwise you won't even have a chance to escape. Officer Yi will not shoot. He has not given the order, and others will not shoot. But the colleagues who arrive later, not understanding the situation, will shoot if they judge you to be a threat. Shooting from the air, even if not hitting a vital spot, is a matter of life and death. Don't take the risk. With every word he spoke, the defenses in my heart seemed to crumble a little more. He clutched his wound with one hand, his upper body almost drenched in blood. I thought he had no strength left to resist, but upon reflection, if he truly had no strength left to resist, his entire body would have collapsed onto me. I would not have had the strength to hold him up and would have been unable to control him. He is helping me. Otherwise, does he have the ability to control me? Do you know what you are saying? I asked in disbelief. I know, I am helping a criminal. I will become a police officer violating discipline. But I believe in my own judgment. Go, he took a step back, pulling me back with him. He cried out in pain. Yihang hurried to ask Cui Xiao Yue, how are you? He didn't answer, just feigned extreme pain. Yihang quickly said, Cui Xiao Yue, I'll let you go, you release him. What should I do? I looked into the distance. Several helicopters were flying towards us, the noise growing louder. Perhaps someone in the special forces thought Yihang's actions were incorrect, but chose to persuade. Young lady, if you have been wronged, you should report to the police and seek their assistance. But you are using this method to threaten the police into investigating the case for you, which is unreasonable. No matter what pain you have endured, or how much harm you have suffered, it cannot be a reason for you to commit murder and arson. You said the police would only push you to the dock, sentence you to death to protect justice and the dignity of the law, and no one would care why you ended up like this. So think carefully. If the perpetrator who harmed you also suffered a lot of pain and encountered a lot of harm, then his harming you, would it also be justifiable? And should the police also disregard the law because of their stories? The only thing you can do now is to put down the knife, accept the judgment, and avoid making further mistakes. Stop talking, Yi Hang interrupted, saying, Cui Xiao Yue, I am in charge of this case. They are only here to assist me. I said let you go, so I let you go, but if you make any rash moves, every gun here can legally shoot you dead. Xiao Yue also urged, hurry up and go. Perhaps I can escape, but even if I escape, what can I do? Will anyone really investigate baseless things for a murderer? Perhaps only when I die my story can truly be revealed to everyone, right? I have killed people. I am dying. I have never feared death. I only fear dying silently. With so many police officers and law enforcement personnel witnessing this, I am walking towards death, which should be considered a glorious end, shouldn't it? Officer Xia, why did I send my whole family away? What is the relationship between me and Yue Wen Shan, and what have I endured? Officer Yi will tell you later. Thank you for believing in me. I hope you can continue to believe. I released Xiao Yue's neck, raised my hand holding the knife high, trying to let them know that I had compromised, and I clearly felt the person opposite exhale. But at this very moment, I once again stabbed the knife towards Xiao Yue. Xiao Yue was completely caught off guard, but he instinctively raised his hand to block, and then I took the opportunity to slide down the cliff. Last time I did the same, throwing myself into the vast sea without hesitation. The only difference is that last time, what I saw below was the deep blue sea, while this time, below were jagged, sharp rocks. My body will not be supported by the seawater, nor will it be protected and carried away by the seawater, to miraculously find a way to survive in the abyss. This time, I will only fall to pieces, and I will surely not survive. I can bear the consequences of my actions. Please continue to investigate. Let the villains who have harmed me, harmed Yue Wen Shan, and harmed so many other women be held accountable by law. If they can do as I wish, then I can die without regret. But at the critical moment, Xiao Yue's hand tightly grasped mine. Cui Xiao Yue, hold on to me. Death cannot solve the problem. Xiao Yue was stabbed by me once in the back, and now he is stabbed again. Blood has almost soaked his clothes, and at this moment, he is using his blood-stained hands to hold my entire body. The pain was so intense it contorted his features, yet he held my hand tightly. I was surprised, even astonished. I had never met a man willing to sacrifice his life to save a woman. Yes, many men make mistakes, commit crimes, but there are also many men who defend their country, true men who stand tall. Some husbands abandon their wives to collect insurance money, but there are also husbands who, without hesitation, dive into the sea to save their wives. Some husbands commit domestic violence, hurting their wives, but there are also husbands who cannot bear the shock of their beloved wife's death and follow her in suicide. There are male criminals who sexually assault and rape women, but there are also men who sacrifice their lives to protect women. Some fathers plot to harm their stepchildren, but there are also adoptive fathers who remain unmarried their entire lives to raise their adopted daughters. Some fathers commit the sin of harming their own daughters, but there are also compassionate fathers who sell blood and kidneys to pay for their daughters' medical expenses. Among the teaching staff, there are men. Among the doctors saving lives, there are men. Soldiers defending the nation, police officers punishing evil and upholding good, lawyers defending justice, firefighters extinguishing fires and saving lives, scientists exploring the unknown, unconditional volunteers, farmers diligently cultivating the land, sanitation workers making silent contributions. In all these groups, there are men. He looked at me with pleading eyes and said, "The relationship between men and women has never been one of opposition. I am a man, but I can empathize with your pain, because I also have a mother, and in the future I will have a wife and daughters." Saying this, he almost broke down in tears. I will not allow any woman in this world to be harmed. I will investigate, even if it means facing floods and fierce beasts, even if it costs me my life. I will investigate to the end. The helicopter was not used to capture you, but because we had a premonition that a great crime might be hidden on this island. Find me, please. Trust me, trust us, trust the police. I don't know why, but when he said he believed in me, I was willing to believe in him. When he empathized with me, I was willing to empathize with him. However, it seemed too late. If he didn't let go, he would be dragged down into the abyss with me. Yi Hang and the others were too far away. He couldn't hold on until they ran over to save him. You brat, are you mesmerized by my beauty? Actually, many of the things I said were lies. But you said you would investigate, and I was very happy. Let go. I know that only when I die can you truly investigate to the end. Otherwise, everyone will just focus on my crimes of sending people away, arson, and exterminating the clan, and no one will care about the secrets behind it. Only by bearing the guilt I deserve can I make you help me find the culprit who harmed me without hesitation. Otherwise, legally or morally, I cannot stand firm. If I don't die, I will not receive everyone's forgiveness and sympathy. If I don't die, no one will care what I have endured. Let go. I have never been willing to trust any man. But at this moment, I choose to believe because besides believing, I have no other choice. I have to believe that there is light in this world. Only in this way can I believe that those who are in the darkness can eventually see the light and feel the warmth. No, I won't let go. Just a little longer. Brother Yi Hang will come to save us. Believe me, I can endure it. The waves under the cliff crashed against the rocks, as if urging me to jump down. The sunset in the distance gradually shifted westward, merging with the sea, and flocks of seagulls circled playfully in the sky, chasing the light in the middle. Hurry up! The sound of footsteps running grew closer, and the hope of survival seemed to grow brighter. In an instant, I only heard a deafening gunshot, and immediately after, I felt something tear through my back. Blinding fresh blood spurted from my body, causing my internal organs to suffer a violent impact. Xiao Yue screamed heartbreakingly, "Don't shoot. Don't shoot. She can't resist anymore." Don't shoot, however, no matter how he yelled, the gunshots continued. I felt myself being hit by bullets from all directions. Each bullet seemed to drain a part of my strength. In the end, all my strength was depleted. I clearly felt Xiao Yue's hand slipping away from mine. In my final glance, I saw Yi Hang rush over, embrace Xiao Yue's body, and roll towards the bushes beside them. Our eyes met. His gaze was filled with shock and fear. Simultaneously, his eyes on me held reluctance, sympathy, and helplessness. The last sound I heard in my life was Yi Hang's panicked scream. Who shot? Who shot? Who gave you the right to fire? But despite the fierce and continuous questioning, the only answer received was gunfire. Sister, hurry and run. Live on. Live for me, this was the last thing Yue Wen Shan said to me, meaning I, Cui Xiao Yue, could not live on, and Yue Wen Shan's life was also unsustainable at this moment. Sister, the sky here is fake. Do you know, according to Uncle Man Shen, when a person is born into a fabricated world, they cannot detect that they are in a deception. But even if everything is an illusion created by others to deceive him, one day he will become suspicious. Because humans are born with the ability to explore the unknown, they just need a crucial point. As long as the seed of doubt is sown in their hearts, the truth will one day surface before their eyes. Sister, I am your crucial point. I believe that one day you will awaken. Sister, this is the birthday gift Mom gave me, my most precious possession. I give it to you. If one day I die, remember, I died a great death. I died to protect my dignity. I died to protect myself. I died to protect justice. I will absolutely not yield, even if beaten to death. I will not bow my head. They can harm my body, but they can never corrupt my soul. I had never imagined that a girl could be like this. How did she grow up? Who raised her to be so strong and unyielding? Clearly, she was in urgent need of escape, but why was it the useless me who escaped? Oh heavens, oh earth, I am not an evil person. I only wish for those criminals who have harmed me, harmed Yue Wen Shan, and harmed my fellow women to receive just punishment. Please help me. Please listen to my story. Please pity my misfortune. Hilingi wishes you a good day. Side story. My confession, Yue Wen Shan. To Officer Yi Hang. Hello, sir. By the time you read this email, I believe I will no longer be in this world. I believe I cannot bring myself to harm an innocent police officer to achieve my selfish desires. Therefore, my final choice is to use my death, my blood to ignite your desire, or the desire of the police, of all law enforcement officers, to investigate my experiences. Similarly, I believe only when I am dead can you freely cast aside all restraints and investigate that place called Yun Island without reservation. I understand clearly that the law wishes me to bear the consequences of my crimes more, wishing to demonstrate the severity of the law through my confession and punishment, to protect the dignity of the law, and at the same time to protect the moral principles that have been passed down since ancient times. Perhaps my actions were wrong, sinful, but I have no regrets, nor do I feel remorse. My actions were not impulsive, but a long-term plan and calculation. The outcome of murder and arson was not my momentary anger, but the explosion of endless hatred accumulated over a long period of suppression. Please do not rush to deny me, to condemn me. Please listen to my story. Please believe that a dying bird sings its sorrow, and a dying person speaks their good words. I once thought I was an extremely fortunate girl, in a poor village. When the neighbor's daughter was scolded as worthless, my parents cherished and cared for me as I grew up. In my memory, when the neighbor's daughter could only wear her siblings' old clothes, my mother dressed me up like a little lucky star. Spring outfits, summer dresses, autumn sweaters, winter down jackets. It seemed I never wore the same outfit twice. Every time I walked in front of people, I was confident and proud. On that barren land, I was like a born noble, enjoying a treatment that others dared not even imagine. When other children looked at an apple with longing, I was already bathing in precious cow's milk. When they were left to roam the fields like animals by their parents, my mother's eyes never left me for a moment. When they had to help their families with farm work, I sat before the piano, accompanied by the black and white keys. There, I felt out of place. Everyone praised my parents as the most loving parents, because they understood that investing in children is the best investment. And they grasped the guiding principle that daughters are treasures of the home, unaffected by outdated feudal notions. At the same time, my twin brother, born with me into this world, did not receive such preferential treatment. My parents invested almost all their money in me. They could endure hunger and hardship, but they would never let me feel the slightest bit of neglect. The village lacked kindergartens, and other children grew up in the mud, while I was trained in good habits and became a refined young girl. Other girls might have had no chance to attend school, but I was sent to the best primary school. I peacefully completed 6 years of primary education, feeling I was an exceptionally outstanding girl, excelling in demeanor, moral conduct, and academic performance. My first taste of sweetness in life came at the age of 12. My aunt Qi Wangshu returned home. My mother had always told me since childhood that she was the eldest aunt of our family, and we all had to respect and love her. She was an extremely beautiful woman, in my impression, a being whose beauty children had to look up to in admiration. She did not visit often, but each time she did, my parents would slaughter a pig and a sheep, treating her like a deity. My mother said she earned a lot of money outside, and our family's good life was all thanks to her. She said, "The full moon is large. You've grown up now, so you should leave this poor village and go to a better school." I thought that better school was in the big city, the prosperous area from books, with tall buildings, skyscrapers, and high technology that could control the weather. So, she took me on a boat to leave my hometown. I asked, "Are we going far?" She said, "Not far, you'll arrive after a nap." She didn't lie to me, indeed. After a nap, I arrived at a place so bright, with dazzling white light that made it impossible to open my eyes. But I had no teachers nor classmates. She said, "Here you learn different things, and I am your best teacher." She said, "Schools outside teach you theoretical knowledge, while here I educate you with practical, real-world knowledge." The first lesson she taught me was to recognize my own body. I said I already knew. The teacher had taught us. I know the 5 senses and 4 limbs of the human body. I know the human body has 206 bones. I know that beneath the ribs is where our internal organs are protected. I also know that bones are like the framework of a house, supporting our bodies. Muscles attach to bones, and through contraction and relaxation, they enable us to perform various movements. She smiled and shook her head, saying that's what little girls learn, but you are already a grown woman now. She said a woman's body is born to be prepared for men. Women are born with a fatal flaw. Destiny dictates they need men to complete them. She said sleeping with men is a woman's natural duty. She also said that when men hit, it is love. When they scold, it is love. The pain men inflict on women is the greatest happiness for women. At that age of innocent naivety, Many strange thoughts arose in my mind. I doubted, I was curious, I tried to explore, and I tried to reconcile. During those vague and confused days, the new clarity seemed to transform me. I don't know how long I studied before I was taken to a man's bed. All the behaviors and words I once considered dirty, base, and unacceptable seemed to become reasonable and civilized as long as they were performed by a man and a woman in bed. From then on, every man was a test for me, and every act of service became a rigorous examination. I once thought it was suffering, but Miss N comforted me, saying all women are like this. Gradually, I got used to it, because every girl beside me was indeed like me. The difference was that their learning ability was not as strong as mine. I am competitive. I must strive for first place in everything. If a man's answer is laughter, I will laugh to the extreme. If a man's answer is tears, I will cry to the extreme. Later, I gradually felt the joy of mingling among men. In their praise, in the women's envy, I gradually lost myself. I was the most beautiful girl in that white castle, and every man yearned to be my honored guest. I possessed the most splendid attire, the most priceless jewelry, and under the dazzling lights, I received endless admiration from men. Although I occasionally complained privately to her that some men were old, ugly, smelly, and dirty, and also arrogant, I hated them, just like I hated flies. Madame Yang said it's good that they are old, good that they are ugly, good that they are dirty, good that they are smelly, good that they are arrogant, and it doesn't matter if they are vulgar. What does it have to do with us? We were born to serve them. Often it's punishment. Punishment is also normal. Pain is love. Love is pain. We can only accept, not resist. The only thing you can do is to try your best to be happy yourself in the moments you bring them joy. Without them, you will die, understand? At that time, I did not understand these words. It's just that, besides her, I never had close friends. It was difficult to make a friend, and after a few days, she would disappear. She said they were foolish. If everyone were as beautiful, intelligent, and obedient as me, they wouldn't have to suffer so much. The second turning point in my life was the appearance of Yue Wen Shan. Side story, my personal confession, Cui Xiao Yue. When Yue Wen Shan was carried to my side, her body was covered in blood, yet no wounds could be found. She said the blood all flowed from her mouth and nose. Even if her internal organs were shattered, her appearance must not be harmed in the slightest. She told me to comfort her, a beautiful girl, with so much future ahead. Why must she torment herself? I carefully observed her face. She was indeed very beautiful, but I always felt her beauty was different from the other girls here. A standard rosy face, fair skin, lips like silk, delicate features, exuding a sense of purity and nobility. She said, I am already 18 years old and may soon no longer be able to rely on my looks to conquer men. I need to think of a new way out, finding a younger, more beautiful girl as a teammate can extend my comfortable winning days by a few more years. Otherwise, I will decline. Decline to a place where there is no light, no air to breathe. I don't know where that place is. Sometimes I ask her, when can I go home? She asked me back with a smile, didn't I tell you, girls don't have a home? When young, at their parents' home. After marriage, at their husband's home. In old age, at their son's home. Even when dead, that small grave plot does not belong to you. It is inscribed with Madame Mu, wife of the third son, bearing the husband's surname. Therefore, this is our home. Once we arrive at this home, we can never leave. However, if we could give the family a lot of money, we could buy a permanent position in the maternal home. In the future, when your grandson makes offerings to his parents, he might also make offerings to you, she said, laughing. Then crying again, she choked back a sob and said to me, why tell you this, you will have a better fate than me, because I will protect you. When Yue Wen Shan woke up, I repeated everything my aunt had taught me to her. But she always said one thing, sister, that is wrong. Women are not born to serve men. On the contrary, it is women who give birth and nurture men. We come into this world because we have an ultimate desire for life. We exist in this world to pursue our dreams, adhere to our beliefs, and realize our self-worth. Sister, they are bullying you, oppressing you. Sister, they have brainwashed you. Sister, those gorgeous clothes and sparkling jewelry are not for you. They are to satisfy their eyes. Sister, this is not the world. This is a well. We must escape. She told me how wonderful the outside world was, how brilliantly a woman could live. A woman's world is not in a man's bed. She could be a titan of commerce, a powerful woman in the workplace, a doctor in a white coat, a teacher at the podium, a lawyer eloquently defending justice in court. She could do anything a man could do. She said women are free. They can eat what they like, wear clothes that make them comfortable, and walk with their heads held high wherever they wish. At first, I didn't believe her. I pointed to my forehead and said, I've only learned what little girls learn, not what grown girls should learn. I asked her, do you know your own body? She said, of course I do. I said, women are born with a deficiency and need men to complete them. She vehemently retorted, that's not true. Women are whole, independent, and do not need anyone to complete them. It is our bodies, and we are the masters of our bodies. We have the absolute right to control our own bodies. No one is allowed to use any means to force us to spread our legs. That is illegal. She looked at me, her eyes filled with helpless sorrow. Later, I became increasingly interested in her world. I increasingly yearned for the outside world. I tried asking those men about the outside world. Are you from the outside world? What are women like outside? They lied to me, saying, they are all like you, beautiful and well-behaved. Later, we tried every means to escape. Just as we were about to succeed, she discovered us. The fierce dog San bit Yue Wen Shan's calf and dragged her into the protective net. My aunt screamed heartbrokenly, Xiao Yue, you're leaving me. What will I do? I'll be killed. Your parents and brother will all die. With her last bit of strength, Yue Wen Shan screamed, sister, run! Live on, live for me! I dared not look back, only able to run forward. Though my feet were bleeding, I did not give up. Finally, I reached a cliff. I didn't have time to admire the scenery outside, but I remember seeing small purple flowers on the steep cliff. I saw a strangely shaped knife on a rock. I jumped into the sea without hesitation. Fate loved me, allowing me to survive. Thus, my life took its third major turn. The sea washed me ashore in Jiang Bay, but no one rescued me during that time. By the time I woke up, I don't know how many days and nights had passed. I tried to blend into the crowd, begging for help, but everyone, seeing my filth, feared me and avoided me. Having been in that castle for too long, I had long forgotten the outside world. Moreover, I had never set foot in a bustling city like Jiangbei, nor had I ever seen such a world even in my dreams. Then I fainted. When I woke up again, I had become Yue Wen Shan. Madame Yu hugged me, weeping bitterly, repeatedly calling, my ill-fated daughter, my ill-fated San. I said, I am not her. Madame Yu insisted, you are. She took out the necklace from my neck. This is the birthday gift mother gave San, something she never takes off. I told her everything that had happened between Yue Wen Shan and me, believing fate had brought me here. I screamed, begging her, go save Yue Wen Shan, please, go save Yue Wen Shan. Madame Yu did indeed weep for Yue Wen Shan, but her grief did not last long. With terrifying calmness, she told me, Yue Wen Shan cannot return. Even if she could, she would no longer be the Yue Wen Shan of the past. But you are different. No one knows your past. As long as you tell the police that you escaped from human traffickers with your intelligence and wit, you can become a dazzling rich young lady. You will have beautiful, luxurious clothes. You will have unparalleled jewels. You will have everything. I said, I am not Yue Wen Shan, I am Cui Xiao Yue. She said, no, you are Yue Wen Shan. Say it after me. You are Yue Wen Shan. Epilogue: Cui Xiao Yue's confession. My aunt was gentle. Madame Yu was insane. But their goals were the same. Both hoped I could become the person they imagined. She took me to the White Castle, while Madame Yu locked me in a dark, cold room. She led me into her world when I was still innocent and naive. Madame Yu used confinement and violence to force my submission, while my personal safety was not guaranteed. Yue Wen Shan, as a 15-year-old girl who was kidnapped and escaped. It is normal to be mentally distressed and speak incoherently. I have faced the police. I have considered seeking help from the police. I once asked her if I had the opportunity to speak with the police privately. Every word I spoke, every action I took, was under the supervision of my guardian, Madame Yu. I was very curious why she insisted on making me Yue Wen Shan, why she didn't go rescue her own daughter. Until one day, she dressed me up splendidly and pushed me in front of a man, saying, Father, this is your daughter. The man looked at my face, pursed his lips, his eyes, his smile, were exactly like those men in the manor. For a moment, I couldn't discern who had deceived me, or why. Clearly this body was mine, yet everyone except myself seemed to have the right to control it. Madame Yu looked at my body like a wilting flower. Her hands gripped my face, forcing me to look straight at her. She was both frantic and agitated. "My child, listen to your mother." Her features turned ferocious, appearing to laugh and cry. "Your mother once had a very good family in her youth. She possessed a beauty that drove men to distraction." She pointed towards the door and said, "He said he loved me. He did everything to snatch me from another man, using his power to force my parents to marry me to him. He once made me feel that he loved me madly, and also made me infatuated with his love to the point of madness. As time went by, everything changed simply because I could not bear children, simply because before I met him, I had slept with another man. He, in the name of love, clipped all my feathers, and then, when I had nothing left but him, he kicked me aside while blaming me for everything. I had no other choice. I was merely adopting a daughter. I poured my heart into raising her. I longed for her appearance to sustain this family, to keep my husband, to give me a place in this house, in this world. Yue Wen Shan achieved that. She won her father's heart. Now you can too, though the methods differ, the outcome is the same. She comforted me. Don't be afraid, my child. When you grow up, when he gets old and settles down, our lives will return to normal. Mother will forever be the admired and envied Madame Yue, and you too can become a young lady of high society, adored by countless people. I faced the deranged Madame Yue, and at night, I faced the brutal Mr. Yue. I looked up at the sky, turned to look at the high walls, the towering iron gates, then lowered my head to look at the chains on my limbs. I began to miss my life in that white castle. At least there, she would protect me. Before I met Yue Wen Shan, I even felt I was quite happy. I wore fine silks and brocades, ate delicacies, had people fawning over me, and others envying me. I tried to overturn everything Yue Wen Shan had told me. I tried to prove that everything she said was wrong. But I couldn't prove it, because I read a sentence. I would rather suffer than die in silence. I am a person, not an object. I should have my own thoughts. I should have the right to control myself. Violence cannot suppress my awakening, and chains cannot lock down my resistance. One evening, I pushed Mr. Yue from the upper floor, and he fell right at Madame Yue's feet. She looked at the body at her feet, at the blood on the floor, then looked up at me. Under the dim light, she saw my indifferent expression, saw the contempt and cruelty in my eyes, saw the irrepressible smile on my lips. I walked down the stairs step by step with a confrontational air. She pointed a finger at me, backing away step by step, saying, she said. I said with a laugh, "You killed him. I am his daughter. How could I have had the chance, in the dead of night, to make him, who had just satisfied his desires, fall down the stairs?" Of course, he might have slipped and fallen, don't you think? From then on, my life entered its fourth turning point. I became the master of the Yue family, inheriting their assets. I began to receive a normal education under the identity of Yue Wen Shan. I started planning revenge for my past. I put all my effort into finding that white castle, but in my memory, there were only small purple flowers, a strangely shaped knife, steep cliffs, and raging waves. It took me a great deal of effort to determine that the cliff from which I jumped into the sea was a small island in the sea called Yun Island. But no matter how I searched, that white castle did not exist on that island. The buildings and people I saw seemed to exist only in my dreams. But how could a dream be so real? After much inquiry, I found my parents, a pair of ordinary farmers in that impoverished valley, yet they could afford a villa in the Jiangbei district. I knew my brother had gotten married, and his wife had given birth to twins. The little girl, like me, had a pleasant and melodious name and was doted on by the elders in the family. Everyone said the Q family loved their daughters the most, and that families who loved their daughters had good fortunes. No wonder their family was becoming increasingly prosperous. Only I knew that the unfortunate little girl would become the next me. When they saw me, they were astonished, surprised, and at the same time very welcoming, just as they welcomed my aunt back home that year. Their lives were very good, with money and time. The father was absolutely domineering, the elder brother tall and crude, the mother and sister-in-law busy grooming the little girl. "You're out too, aren't you?" My mother wondered, then said with admiration, "My daughter is truly capable, even more so than your aunt." The sister-in-law was a bit skeptical. "Does that place really make that much money?" My mother chuckled. "Then you have to be beautiful. Even if you wanted to go, you couldn't." The sister-in-law said happily. Mother said that the daughters in the Q family's dragon, Phoenix twins, are born with their own provisions. I didn't believe it then, but now I do. It wasn't in vain that I went through IVF to have Dragon Phoenix twins. Dragon Phoenix, why is it called Dragon Phoenix? Why not Phoenix Dragon? My brother laughed heartily. From now on, the Cui family will establish a rule: sons are responsible for continuing the family line, and daughters are responsible for earning money to support the family. My father authoritatively concluded, each generation will be richer than the last. As long as we have Dragon Phoenix twins generation after generation, the Cui family will soon become a prestigious clan. They were all laughing, and the poor little girl laughed along, her childish voice calling me auntie, auntie, auntie. I once resented her, but at that moment I felt immense empathy for her. She was probably an unawakened version of myself. I had considered sparing my mother, my sister-in-law, and those two unfortunate children. However, I have thought it through carefully. Any man who profits by persecuting women deserves to die. Any woman who helps men persecute women deserves to die. Any family that becomes rich by selling their daughters deserves to be exterminated. The two children were born with original sin. To let them live on in this world, who knows how much suffering they would have to bear in the future. It would be better to die early and be reborn early. The extermination of a clan has 3 purposes. First, this is my resistance, my revenge. Second, your aunt is the only link I know between the White Castle and the outside world. If the Q family is exterminated, she will likely appear. Third, such a major criminal case can prompt the police to actively investigate. Reading this far, you must be wondering why I didn't seek help from the police, why I had to resort to such extreme measures. There is no other reason. I do not trust this world, nor anyone in it. Moreover, besides myself, I have no concrete evidence. The only thing I could do was push things to this point. But what is hateful is that I do not trust people. Yet I am forced to rely on a person to help me fulfill my wish. I hate all men equally, yet in the end, I have to entrust my fate after death to a man to decide, because I could not think of any other method, nor could I find anyone more suitable than you. This is my sad tragedy, and perhaps it is also the sad tragedy of this world. Detective, how many cases have you solved? How many criminals have you apprehended? How many victim families have you brought light to? Please, be my light as well. My aunt may still be alive. Yue Wen Shan may also be alive. There may still be countless girls in that White Castle. Please save them. Perhaps many of them do not even know they are being oppressed and enslaved. The bright castle keeps them from realizing they are in darkness. Please let the true light shine upon those unfortunate souls. Please do not let them be imprisoned by misguided ideologies. Please bring them to a new world. Please let them live freely under the sun. Please let them have everything I have wished for my entire life. Chapter 16 Extra, The Light of Yi Hang. I received Cui Xiao Yue's email on the 3rd day after her death. She certainly could not have imagined the immense wave her death would cause. Just as I was desperately trying to find out who had shot and killed her, dense gunfire, like a disturbed beehive, rained down upon us. The killer did not merely want her life. They also intended to eliminate all the police officers who had come to Yun Island to investigate. If I had not made prior arrangements for a retreat, we might not have all survived to leave Yun Island. The helicopter in the air was shot down into the water, and 4 of our colleagues were killed. Xiao Yue was shot in the abdomen, and I was shot in the right shoulder. It was a tragic gunfight unlike any we had ever witnessed in our lives. The assailants were all professionally trained snipers. Some were killed in action, while others committed suicide by ingesting poison after being captured. Although I had a premonition that Yun Island harbored a great secret, I never imagined that the sins committed there were so profound. However, before we could even clear the battlefield or analyze the situation, Yun Island was struck by a violent earthquake, and the ocean waves seemed to surge as if by magic, crashing onto the island. Immediately thereafter, countless walls of water attacked the island, and the land of Yun Island cracked open, gradually sinking. Birds and beasts from the forests and mountains fled their nests en masse, while on the sea, schools of fish and flocks of seabirds rushed to escape. The deafening roar was enough to rupture human eardrums. To have escaped under such circumstances can only be attributed to divine providence. Otherwise, on that day, anyone who had been to Yun Island, seen what they saw, experienced what they experienced, and investigated what they investigated, would have all been submerged in that unforeseen catastrophe. When I finally awoke, it was already the next day. All media outlets are reporting on the sinking of Yue Island. The people on Yue Island, the objects, the trees, the flowers and leaves, all sank deep into the sea, waiting for the tide to recede, and everything returned to silence. The official report states that extreme weather caused storms, tsunamis and earthquakes, causing this poor, small island to completely disappear from the sea surface. All 1 or 6 residents living on Yue Island perished. People have placed fresh flowers on the opposite beach to commemorate them. If it weren't for receiving this email, who would have known what truly happened all this time? Natural disasters are always the best excuse. Yi Hang, can you be a little more alert? Do you know how serious this is? You are doing this just because of an email from a criminal. I request that superiors continue the investigation. This was not a natural disaster. The shootout before the natural disaster was real. The gunman we captured also clearly existed. If the White Castle that Cui Xiao Yue mentioned was fake, then why did such a natural disaster occur? I shouted loudly, they are destroying evidence. There could be countless girls like Cui Xiao Yue and Yue Wen Shan there. Who built such a castle? And who went there to harm those innocent girls? Do they deserve to be sacrificed in vain like this? Are none of these things important? Important, very important. But reassuring the public and maintaining stability are even more important. My superiors asked me 3 times in a row, don't you understand? Don't you understand all of this? Which is more important? Which is less? Do you truly not understand? How could I not understand? Amidst the handling of the major disaster, the case of the annihilated family concluded with the perpetrator being shot dead. No one cared why the perpetrator killed his entire family, nor did anyone pay attention to this case anymore. When colleagues from Zhongbei went to the Yue family's home to verify the authenticity of the descriptions in the email with Madame Yue, she had completely become a madwoman. But the fact that Yue Wen Shan was her adopted daughter, and that Mr. Yue died after falling from a building in the middle of the night, all of these were recorded in the files. After that, I was dismissed for incompetent command and transferred to a sinecure department. Not long after, I developed severe psychological stress disorder and was subsequently admitted to a special convalescent home. This place is for police officers injured in the line of duty. My world became completely bleak. In front of the psychologist, I never uttered a single word. I felt utterly useless, despite the fact that she had begged and pleaded with me. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't save the girls imprisoned in the White Castle, nor could I apprehend the villains who had harmed them. I couldn't even bring her story to light, leaving her to forever bear the stigma of a matricide, enduring the slander of the world. My superiors visited me, offering words of comfort, saying, "Detective, why must you be like this? Indeed, we did not find the White Castle, we did not rescue those innocent girls, we did not apprehend those heinous criminals to bring them to justice. We sacrificed colleagues, we failed to protect the innocent people on the island. But everything should be viewed from its positive side. At least there will be no such place in the world anymore. At least Cui Xiao Yue's story has gradually deterred them. They dare not act recklessly and tyrannically anymore. Her actions, her death, were not entirely without effect. It is you who torment yourself excessively like this. That is truly letting down the innocent victims. I understand all the reasoning, but I cannot forgive myself. If I had been a little more capable, a little more able to anticipate a stronger enemy, a little more prepared, would all these tragedies have been avoided? Cui Xiao Yue, after recovering from his injuries, also visited me specially. He said, "I know what's troubling you. You're wondering why she didn't want to trust the police. I'll tell you the answer. The essence of not wanting to trust the police is trusting the police. Otherwise, she wouldn't even trust the world. Why would she still yearn for your light to illuminate the darkness? I am still pondering why there are such evil people in the world. But all of this is not my fault. You have no idea how much you've influenced me. Your light can affect me, and it can affect so many others. A tiny spark can ignite a prairie fire. Though the dawn is faint, it has its own radiance. If even we who fight against crime must extinguish the light in our hearts, how can you expect ordinary citizens, untrained and unarmed, to resist evil?" Perhaps his words had some effect on me, but what truly revived me was what someone else said. He said, "Yi Hang, forgive yourself. You are a police officer, not a god." The man, groping in the darkness, walked towards me step by step. Our homeland, in the long river of history, has endured one catastrophe after another. But our people have never bowed their heads to suffering. Adversity and hardship will only make us rise stronger in the face of challenges. They can never defeat us. Even if all the evidence has been destroyed, even if all the clues have been severed, you must believe that the moment a crime is conceived, it is forever nailed to the pillar of shame. When the light of justice flows across the land, they will finally have nowhere to hide. I know him. He is Officer Lang Songbai, the lead investigator in the Lakeland flower case. During his arrest, the suspect severed the tendons in his left arm, destroying his eyes. He will live in darkness forever, but at this moment, he has used the faint light in his heart to pass on the light within me. 3 years later, I returned to my post. My superior handed me a list and asked, Yi Hang, do you dare to investigate? They are either wealthy or noble, influential and powerful. They are a clique of the elite with intricate connections. They all possess a perfect facade. Do you dare to tear off their disguise? I dare. What is there that I do not dare to do? As long as the law grants me the authority to investigate this case, no matter who it is, I will certainly bring them to justice. My superior said, this is the list our informants sacrificed their life to obtain. He said, do not feel alone. In this world, there are thousands upon thousands of you who take punishing evil and upholding good as your mission. How regrettable. The impoverished island we call Yin Island is referred to as Paradise Island in their mouths.
The end. That's all.
If you enjoyed it,
Please give a like and subscribe to Healing Yi. Wishing you all great fortune.